Just to start with a little bit of housekeeping, let's make sure that you're in the right place. If you registered for Co-Creative's interactive webinar, Collaborative Innovation, what it is, how it's different, and what it takes, you are in the right place. We are whole human beings, and we know that many of us are working from home, maybe from a cafe or a shared working space. If your bandwidth allows, please keep your video on today. It is all welcome, whatever is going on in your space. And also, there are quite a few of us here, so please keep your mics muted. There will be times to unmute in group sharing and in plenary, and we'll invite you to participate at that time. I do want to flag that we are recording today, and this recording will be shared back with you. And my name is Maricela Wexler. I'm with Co-Creative, and it's my pleasure to introduce and share a little bit more about Co-Creative today. How we often talk about our work. We help people who don't know each other and may not even like each other co-create better futures together. We work across a lot of different areas, including food, energy, finance, education, and health. And in these spaces, we harness the wisdom of diversity and the power of shared aspiration for meaningful change. We do this work by designing and supporting multi-stakeholder collaborations and supporting the leaders of those collaborative efforts. We have had the pleasure of working with over 60 change networks through launch, design, turnaround, you name it. And we've also supported hundreds of leaders with coaching and training. What are we doing here today? We are going to introduce an approach to collaboratively advance critical systems change. And the flow for today's session, right now, introductions and some connections with one another. We'll talk about some of the key elements of this approach and also what makes it different from how collaboration is often approached. And we're also going to have time to talk about what it takes through a few experiences, prompts, and reflections. And of course, time to connect in small groups, reflect, and apply some of the learning from today. We are going to be covering quite a bit today, and this is only a brief introduction to collaborative innovation. We have a lot of exciting opportunities coming up, like our courses to go deeper. And in those, you can get hands-on experience in the context of your own work. And as a thank you and appreciation for joining today, we are offering 10% off of our next two courses to you all, and we'll share more about that at the end and in follow-up communications for how to redeem that offer. I am excited to introduce our host team today, my friends and colleagues. I'm, again, Maricela Estevez Wexler. I'm calling in today from Humboldt County in Northern California, USA. We have Melissa Darnell calling in from Montana, and Isaac M. Carter, who is calling in from Florida today. All right, we want to jump in to connecting with each other. My friend Isaac is going to drop in the chat a link to Meeting Pulse. And if you navigate there, please, there'll be an opportunity to respond to these 3 prompts. We ask that you share your name and organization if you are part of one, where you're joining from today. So for Isaac, for example, that would be Miami, Florida, a place where we can find on a map, please, and one value that consistently informs your life and work. So we'll give just a little bit of time here for folks to respond. And if you do have any issues with accessing Meeting Pulse, you can share in the chat. We do see responses coming in. Thank you so much. I'll share my screen so we can see together. All right, we got some more representation from Montana. City of Eureka, hello. That's where I am. Amazing. Some familiar names and organizations, also new to me folks too. Great.
Friends from Alaska, welcome, Mara.
And Nicole, we see you. Thanks for sharing in the chat as well.
Yeah.
And where are we calling from? Calgary, Alaska, yes, New York, Washington, Canada, Arcata, my neighbor. Wow, cool. Lots of representation from Humboldt today. Spain, welcome. Guatemala. All right, amazing. Thank you. And one value that informs your life, work, beautiful. We see big here, community, empathy, integrity. I'll just give us a second to soak in these values. Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much for playing there. I am now going to pass to my colleague, Isaac, to continue our connecting time.
Thank you, Stella. Happy that you all are here today and we can share this time together. We're going to do something to help bring us together as a group and organization of people who come from different parts of the world. And the part that we want to make sure we do is to connect with each other. Connection is a key part of what we do in Co-Creative, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to connect with each other today. So you will see in the prompt is you'll go into groups of 3 or 4, name where you're joining from, and one spicy but brief line about what you dedicate your time to. And then you can also, if you have time, share one high point of an experience of deep collaboration. You have 8 minutes, so make sure you share the mic time, and we'll let you go into the rooms and see you back here soon. Okay?
We, as Maricela started us off today, we are really delighted to share with you, what we at Co-Creative think of as collaborative innovation, the way that we work across systems and across sectors to bring people together across their differences and diversity to develop the most creative and innovative parts of who we can be as people together in solving systemic challenges. So this is a brief introduction to the methodology that we have refined over the course of the last about 18 years now. And we want to share just a little bit about, what it is, how, at least from our perspective, it's different than traditional collaboration or the way that folks think of collaboration. And then we have sort of 3 elements that we want to play with you on this webinar today of the particular model. So as you can see here, we really think of collaborative innovation as an approach. As Maricela introduced us earlier, oftentimes we're working on challenges in communities that are so complex that the people who are required to work together may not even know that they exist together in the same ecosystem. Or it might be a situation where people don't necessarily like each other, but they're required to be together in order to figure something out that's truly complex. We also think of it as a true process that has phases. And in a second, I'll share with you a little bit of, about our roadmap, which we'll provide after the call, and some really specific and concrete steps that people can take together to advance systemic change in community. And we have a set of tools and methods, and also some patterns that we leverage to support groups that are moving through the process, to get from analyzing the problem and truly figuring out what it is they want to do together to implementing and prototyping and scaling solutions. So, we at Co-Creative really do believe that people can and will solve really big problems together if they have the right tools and methods and support. So I said, we have a roadmap and we do, this is what it looks like. Stella will send it out after we are, when she sends the follow-up materials and the recording and things like that. While it looks like something that appears to be linear, and those of you on the call know that collaboration is really messy and complicated, and it's 4 steps, forward, and then it's more like a watershed and not even a stream. But we do, as I said, have some strategic steps that we take along the way to help people move from, as I said, developing a goal early on and figuring out what people want to do together to actually moving forward to implementing solutions. So here's just a zoom in on that, the early parts of the process.
And we're not going to go into detail in this model, but it's important to point out a couple of things that we build on, and we're going to get to the CALM agenda. And what this has come from is that as we work with different groups over time, we understood and better understood the power of what happens when you have alignment, when you have a deep connections, you get a chance to learn around a powerful intent. And that leads us to our 4 elements of the 4 agenda. The 4 agendas are an opportunity for us to be able to figure out, like, how do we come together and work together in a way that allows it to be collaborative, innovative, as we said. And there's 4 components that we found that have emerged in the work that we do. So one is the connecting agenda. And so connection, we did a little connecting today, but it's important to be able to connect and understand that as we are in this world together and we occupy space in these ecosystems, our connections help us build trust and give us the opportunity to go beyond the boundaries that may exist and be able to transverse those boundaries so we can actually do some deep work together. Moving on to the next part of the agenda is the aligning part. And the aligning is an opportunity for us to get some clear and deep understanding of a shared intent. And later on, we're going to talk about the power of a shared intent, because that can really drive and energize any collaborative network activity that we do. The next part of the agenda is the learning agenda. And the learning agenda is about what's going on in the system. We all are human beings, and maybe we're other creatures in the system, and we have a say in how we should be able to live and what we want to live and desire. And it's important in a collaborative effort to understand and get those voices from different parts and give you an opportunity to converge and diverge on different thoughts. And that diverging and conversion doesn't need to be something that needs to be held as a conflict, but an opportunity to learn and grow. And through that process, we deepen our understanding of the system, which hopefully leads us to better solutions for the whole. And then the last part of the agenda, and it's my favorite, the making agenda, it gets us out of our heads and our minds about talking about things and over and consistently having ideas. We want to treat those ideas and opportunities as hypotheses, and the making agenda gives an opportunity to test those hypotheses in our communities, and we get a chance to see the results in real time. And obviously those that are working well, you can try to figure out how to go to scale. And those that don't work so well, the opportunity to learn and gives you opportunity to pivot and move to a different direction and that you're currently moving on. But the key part of it is that when they're connected, aligned, and learning, we make some good things for our community, and we make some good things happen in our communities. You'll see at the bottom, the heart, it's part of the agenda, making sure we are, showing up authentically who we are as people, fully humans. We recognize that. The aligning agenda is thinking of our spirit in terms of who we are, our center of ourselves, our inner values and beliefs, as well how they manifest outside of ourselves, depending on your beliefs. The learning agenda obviously goes with the head in terms of our thoughts. And then the making agenda is our hands, putting our hands in the soil and the dirt and reach across the aisle with each other and make sure we build those connections to make things happen in our communities.
So as I mentioned earlier, we think of the collaborative innovation process model as something that is different than what we think of as collaboration as usual. So we wanted to share with you some of the differences that we see and invite you to tell us what's standing out about that. Could I have the next slide, please? And actually, could you just populate everything on the screen? So we're gonna go in depth into a few of these in just a few minutes, but I want to give you a chance to scan this list and then let us know, is there something on there that you're like, ooh, that feels juicy, or I don't understand it, or that really resonates with my experience as a facilitator. We'd love to hear from you.
Darcy, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by the working in real time with everyone in the room. I'm like, oh, that sounds messy and hard to get anything accomplished. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, nice. We we'll go into this a little bit when we talk about like who we invite to be a part of collaborations. But as a preview to that, I'll just say that it's really important to us that we have all of the wisdom and all of the diverse perspectives of the system in the room together at the same time, because all of us collectively are smarter than any one of us individually, and we see different parts of the system from our experiences and from our own vantage points. And so being able to have that requisite diversity working together, it is messy. And it helps us generate the most creative, the most interesting, the most powerful analysis about the problems and the solutions that we want to put forward. There was another hand, but I think I missed it. Oh, yeah. I don't want to mispronounce your name, Kamilah. Can you help me?
It's
Camila?
Camila, yeah, welcome. What's your...
So my thought is, and I think I just need more information on this, is the collaboration as usual, begin with what everyone can agree to, collaborative innovation approach, start with a powerful goal. So like to me, you have a vision, and that underlying vision, that's what is the through line to get people to understand like why they're in the room and what they're doing and what's important. And so how does that relate to this? But then I also understand it's really hard for people to grasp that big vision. And so sometimes if there's something more concrete, like a goal, then it helps people to go along and say, okay, this is what I'm aiming for. So I just wonder like how all of that kind of plays into things. And it's not that we have to agree on everything, but there is like an underlying, maybe a higher vision that we all want. So
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that one. That's actually one of the ones that we are going to go into in quite a bit of detail. So if I could push pause on that, I won't address it now, but know that it's coming, because that is one that people are like, I don't understand that. I can see it both ways. So we'll talk more about that. Yeah, Julie.
I'm interested in the open door policy versus being highly selective. I definitely see the benefit of being highly selective, and we have moved in that direction. I do wonder about kind of how to make it clear to everybody that their perspectives are still there, and kind of working in real time with everyone in the room. It can appear to somebody outside the process that you're not really walking the walk if you don't have everybody, right? But we know that if we have everybody, there's just no possible way to get everything done in terms of each participant being there. So thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
I see that being highly selective and is another one that's getting some love in the chat too. So, and that is another one we'll talk about later on. In fact, I'll talk about it. So
Great.
yeah, cool.
you.
I'm also just reviewing the chat quickly. Collective view of the whole system. Yeah, nice. People are already doing that. Great. Prototyping early and often is coming up for somebody as a juicy way to build momentum. That's actually the part of the agenda that Isaac said he liked the best, because we fail fast and we don't invest a lot of time or energy in pushing forward things that aren't going to work. We have a time for a couple more, and then we're going to move on. I want to check. Feels there tension between getting the whole system in the room and being highly selective. Oh yeah, okay. I'll make sure that I talk about that, Matt. Thank you for raising that. And Jen too. Yeah, well, okay. I'll make sure that I can try to address that, and then you all hold me accountable when we get to that part. Anything else that's standing out to folks before we move on? Okay, Isaac, back to you.
Thank you. And if Marcella, if you can still share, I might go off video because my connection is unstable, so you might just hear my voice. That's okay.
Yep.
All right. So, so what does it take? How do we do this? How do we come together and people we don't know each other support this collaborative, innovative approach? So there are 3 dimensions that support our approach and our efforts. One is engagement, and we're going to go over this a little bit more in a second. But engagement, at what level are we currently engaged at? And what level do we need to actually make the change? So when we have people working in collaboration and we think about the people we want to have in the room and being selective, we want to also figure out how we want to engage and how they want to be engaged. And that level of engagement ties directly to the type of collaboration that is going to take place. And it gives the kind of defines the parameters of what people could expect in the engagement process. We'll go over a 5-part process here in a second. But engagement is trying to get people to the table, understanding what their role is, what they're doing, and are those things necessary to create the change they need to have, and how do they come to the work being their whole selves. Intent, which we're going to do a little bit more later. Do we have a truly powerful intent? An intent that's not just a direction or an idea where we're going to go, but something that actually breathes life into the collaborative effort, something that actually gets people energized about the work, and something that's going to actually sustain them and keep their motivation throughout the time you're working together, and going to keep bringing people back to the table and attract new resources to the table, because people like to be around things that are moving and have a really ability to actually drive a bunch of different ideas. We need to have a powerful intent to fuel those efforts so we can make sure that we're getting not only the best people, selected people to the table, but we're actually using their energy and maximizing the potential. And then what goes along with that is the difference. So while we're engaged and we have our intent, do we have the right difference? Do we have the understanding of the hopes, the different powers, the different pain points in the system, different knowledge, different experience that people are having? When we talk about the being selective, it's about being selective to choose difference, to make sure that we have a representative body of the community, of the ecosystem we're working in, and that their voices are not diminished, but are centered as part of the dialogue and discussion. And they could be very much a deep part of the collective effort and actually get people to actually make approaches that actually solve the problem where people actually live at and where they're actually resting their head. And it's very important that we do that in our process and be inclusive in that way. And these are 3 dimensions in terms of how we can support an approach of being collaborative and use it in an innovative way. We're going to move for a second and get to the 5 levels of engagement. And Melissa's going to tell you a little more about what that is.
Yes, I am. But first, we'd like to do a little bit of a guided reflection. So if it feels more comfortable for you to turn off your camera, please do, or you could turn your chair away, soften your gaze. I want you to imagine that you are a member of a community. You have lived here with your family for a long time and you feel very connected to the people and to the land. Your community has many strengths, and it also has some challenges. And so one day, an outside group of experts shows up and says that they want to help improve your community. So they set up some meetings in town. They ask folks to come together and they invite your input on potential improvements. They want people to share their hopes and dreams. They ask you as a leader in your community to participate in a one-to-one interview. And then there's also a survey where you're invited to share your pain points and your ideas for solutions, the things that you feel that could be most pivotal in moving your community forward. Then they say to you, hey, who else should I talk to in your community? And you give them a list of your trusted friends and partners. So after spending 3 to 6 months gathering information, this outside group publishes a report that shares the challenges of the community. And in that report, they reveal a handful of strategies for improvement. Only one of the strategies they share relates at all to the ideas that you or other people in your community agreed were most critical. And other strategies are things that you feel would just be a complete waste of time or may even be harmful to your community. So now I want to invite you to put in chat a few words. What's coming up for you about how you're feeling as you hold this experience? The usual outside consultant problem for sure. Disconnected, betrayed, suspicious. What a waste of my time. Yeah. Performative. Carol has been here before. Ignored, isolated. Okay, Keegan doesn't mind it. That's all right. Yeah. Predictable and annoyed, unsure how the decisions were made, frustrated. Brian sounds like a college campus. All right. Yeah, what's next? Sure. So now, thank you for those comments, those feelings. And you're welcome to continue adding. I see some more disappointment also. So now I want to invite you to reflect back on a time when you were actually deeply engaged in meaningful work with others. And you and everyone involved was contributing to shaping the purpose of the work, shaping the analysis, and shaping the solutions. Think about that time for a second. Remember what you were seeing in that experience. What are you hearing as you're being deeply engaged in this meaningful work? What are you feeling in your body? Perhaps your gut. What's your heart telling you? Your spirit? Yeah, thank you for your comments in the chat. Maybe some conflict in a good way, but we're feeling like we can lean in, connected. I want you to hold on to these two different experiences while we explore what Isaac alluded to as what we consider to be the 5 levels of engagement. So I just want to say first that all levels of engagement are very important and have true value in our society. And we think of them on a dimension from 1 to 5, related to the things that you see here on the left-hand side of your screen. What is the goal? What's decided together? And how are people being engaged? So Maricela, if you could click through. So level 1 is really about informing people and is very critical. Many of us, including myself, have experienced natural disasters where we live. So you get the alert on your phone and you're informed that you are now in an evacuation zone. That's a wonderful level of engagement in that moment. The goal is for me to understand or for others to understand. And I don't have to decide anything with anyone else. It's really about one-way communication, and it serves a very important purpose when that is our goal. Level 2 engagement is where we think of as really a consultation process. So maybe I might want to improve traffic flow on Main Street in my town or something. And so what we have decided together is really that there's a problem with traffic flow. And they might ask me about my patterns of driving on the street or whatever it is, but I'm not going to, don't have expertise in redesigning things. I'm not an engineer. So really, I have been invited to help improve things and really help with understand the problem, but that's the extent of my engagement with a level 2. As we move up for the 5 levels of engagement, we think about level 3 as really a different and a deeper level of engagement that's really about evolving something. So perhaps there is an after-school program that already exists, but we want to really evolve it into something more. Maybe I'm going to help contribute to the analysis of what that means or what it could look like. And there might even be some negotiation about what I might want over something else, like should it end at 7 or should it end at 8? And there could be some input around that, but it's really about evolving something. Can we go to level 4, Maricela? This is where we begin to think that, okay, now we're in it together. We're sitting at the table, we're rolling up our sleeves, we're collaborating. We're going to decide together what the solutions are. I'm not going to give you a range of choices and ask you which one you think is the best. We're going to begin to develop them together. And this is where we're really thinking about perhaps inventing something new. There is a challenge that we've identified and the solution doesn't yet exist, and you and I and perhaps others are going to work on it together. Level 5 is where what we describe as co-creation. And this is where the unique difference is that what we're deciding together is even the goal of our work. And then we're going to co-design and co-create not only the analysis, but also the solution set. Next slide. So we believe that to be for systems change and systems transformation to be truly effective, it requires level 5 engagement of stakeholders consistently over time. And that's because, you know, if we are looking at systemic problems, challenges that require us to work across sectors, across organizations, across disciplines, it's going to also naturally require us to take big risks, to be vulnerable, to let go of our preferred solutions or our ideas about what should happen. It's just too big for any one organization or person or funder to solve on its own. And so these sorts of challenges require us to be all in with each other in order to be able to figure out how we're going to solve them.
Thank you, Melissa. So now we're going to move into the shared intent as promised. So when we think of shared intent, question you want to put in your brains before we start. And we've stated that it's important to have a powerful shared intent. But do we begin with something that everybody can agree to, or do we start with a goal that is powerful? That's part of the question we need to ask ourselves. So do we go with people can stand and can tolerate, or are we trying to push ourselves to think a little more innovative, creatively about what we're doing and what we hope to achieve in our communities? So to explore this idea, we're going to share with you 6 goals, and then we're going to use Meeting Pulse, and Meeting Pulse is going to allow people to vote on the one that creates the most energy in their bodies, not the one that makes the most sense, but the one you can actually feel, the one that sets in your body, the one that maybe gives you energy or goosebumps. What is that goal? And then we're going to talk about the differences where people stand, and then use that as an opportunity to show, like, as we talk about collaborative innovation, we may have different ideas about what the goal is or how it is stated, but it's important to get to something that's powerful that everybody can get behind, without losing the energy and fuel that it has. And so we're going to show you these 6 and give you a chance to reflect on them, and you're going to get a chance to vote, and we're going to have some discussion. So before we do that, would you sit up in your chair, get in a relaxed mood, or stand up, do whatever makes you feel good. I want you to bring attention to your breath. Inhale, exhale, your gut, your feet. And want you to be open as you're going to explore a varied set of possible goals. And as you look at these goals, we're going to review them and pay attention to not only what's happening in the chat or what you see people responding, but keep track of what you're feeling and what's taking place in your body, the somatic awareness of this goal, because that energy and fuel that you may feel is very important to collaborative innovation. So here are the 6. I'll read them out to you, and then you'll get a chance to go vote. So all children in our region will have access to quality preschool to prepare them for kindergarten. Number 1. Number 2, by 2025, all parents and caregivers in our county will have knowledge, skills, connections, support needed for all of the preschool age children to enter kindergarten ready to thrive. By 2032, number 3, race, ethnicity, home language, and economic status will no longer predict kindergarten readiness. 4 is all families with preschool age children will feel valued and respected as they navigate their preschool experience. 5, we will ensure that by 2035, 100% of preschoolers in our county have access to a culturally excellent, high-quality preschool experience that nurtures their success in kindergarten. And then finally, number 6, 50% of preschoolers in this region will have access to quality preschool by 2030 and 100% by 2035. So go to Meeting Pulse, identify the one that creates the most energy for you, and then we'll start sharing some results and talk a little bit more.
I dropped a link in the chat to Meeting Pulse, and we'll give folks a minute to think about which goal they would select.
Think about it and feel about it.
Thank you, Isaac. Yes.
Okay.
We still have responses coming in, but we're starting to see some.
We're coming in. There's a lead by 1. Give it a few more seconds. So, well, there's little fluctuation, but it seems like there is some attention on, it's hard to read about the numbers. Has everybody voted? So we'll ensure by 2035, 100%. That goal is, oh, well, change is happening. Got a change in the market. It's going down a little bit. All right. So a little shift. So there was two that kind of stand out for us. We were sure by 2035, 100%. And then the second one is all families with preschool age children navigate preschool experiences. Is kind of leading the pack. But there are no wrong or right answers. So despite where this comes out, it may be a different group or different with a different group where you are, it might come out different results. So what I want to do now is kind of have people invite people to come off mute and talk about the one they selected of the six and why they selected, so we can hear from each other about what goes into our ideas around what goal is the most powerful and will provide the most energy. You can raise your hand. You could use the chat too, I guess. Camilla.
Okay, so like you said, there's no wrong answer, so I probably picked the wrong one, but
There's no wrong
mine,
answer.
mine was number one. All children in our region will have access to quality preschool to prepare them for kindergarten. I think that that is very similar to the one that won out. We will ensure by 2035.
Mhm.
It still says 100%. There is an actual date, which I think that people like, and I kind of like that too. I just felt like that one, because it said county versus region.
Hmm.
I just kind of like the, what if it expanded even further type of ideal. And so that's
Mhm.
why I chose that one. Like, it's general enough that if we had some leverage points in some other areas, we could utilize those. And some of the other ones I didn't choose because I think some of them are making a lot of assumptions. For example, the ones that focus on parents are making an assumption that that's the lever, and maybe there's some power that the children actually have and should be focused on. So I
Okay.
guess I wanted to get down to that like root focus of the children and
Uh-huh.
start from there.
No, thank you. Some very, very good points. Very good points. Again, there is no wrong answer. Someone else, do you have the same one or a different one you want to shout out and say why you chose it?
Go ahead, Julie.
I also put it in the chat, but I also chose one. I almost chose five, but the thing about five is 2035, and it just seems so far away. And if people that have preschool age children now would be like, well, that's great, but too bad my kids won't benefit. And then also I considered four, but I wondered about how you would ensure and measure that parents feel valued and respected and families feel valued and respected. I totally agree that they should feel that way, but I think it's difficult to ensure that every single person is going to feel valued and respected. I don't know. That's a great goal, but I just don't know how you could actually do that and also how you would measure it.
Thank you. Thank you. Got a couple more hands. I'm going to ask to get some of the comments to also include what this goal makes you feel. I want to hear your thoughts, but I want to hear your feeling and connection to this goal. So I see Keegan and Megan.
Thanks. I think for me, I live in a pretty red state. And so a lot of them were almost like too fluffy and had some like polarizing language in them, which is why I chose one, because it felt direct and it didn't have any polarizing language.
Thank you. Keegan, Megan, I'm sorry.
It rhymes. Thank you. As a mother with two toddlers, I have a 1.5-year-old and an almost 3-year-old. I have been thinking a lot about preschool, so I came at this with a lot of feelings as a parent.
Okay.
And I chose number 4. In researching preschools in the last number of months, trying to sign my son up, getting on wait lists, considering the options, what resonated most with me and what gave me the most energy in reading these was number 4. It spoke to me as a parent going through the system, thinking about it. And so my response and my energy came from thinking about how could I work or support shared goals where all families with preschool age children feel valued, respected, maybe would add in here supported. I think that's maybe a piece that's missing, but in terms of simplicity, it was really resonant. It felt very approachable. It spoke to values that I hold. And I love that it framed it as preschool experience, acknowledging that every family may choose something different, right? That not everyone's choosing the same thing. So it still leaves option. It still leaves choice for people. And maybe just the small change I'd recommend is adding in there the supported piece.
Okay, thank you. And we have time for one more, and then we have to get to slides. But let's try to get to your hand, Vincent, and then Carol.
Yep. I also chose 4, mainly because some of the other goals seemed like objective measures, and I feel like there is sort of instability in an objective measure. Like, what does it mean to be prepared for kindergarten? And if there isn't perception of preparedness for kindergarten, it seems like an unstable situation. Whereas if the community perceives that the situation is good, then there seems to be stability in that perception. And I think that like number 4 basically means it's like people are satisfied with the system, as opposed to other numbers seem to say the system is successful by this measure, but that doesn't signify that anyone is satisfied by that measure or on board with that measure, and therefore it seems like unstable.
Thank you for that. And one more for Carol, we'll round out and then we'll have to.
Yeah, I picked number 5.
Okay.
You know, to use some of the words you've used, it's a big, audacious goal. It's a big issue that, as just everybody discussed, has lots of different layers to it, including navigating the system. And to me, this encompasses that if people have, if 100% of preschoolers have access, that means the parents can navigate the system. I love the language of, you know, excellent, high quality, you know, that nurtures success. To me, it encapsulates all of that. And it, by necessity of this audacious goal, will have lots of different component parts. I sort of see that. And that this project that I would work on, that's going to take 10 years, will have a lot of steps involved. And so that excited me, and it was specific, and it wasn't bland. It was shooting for the stars. So I liked it.
Okay. Well, thank you. And so as we heard from different people, we've had some different ones that were selected. Again, there's no right or wrong answer, but you start to get the idea of how you may be able to diverge and converge together in any kind of collaboration, and be able to make room to hear different opinions, different ideas about what a person wants to do or what's going to inspire them to do the work. Over the course of our work with the organizations and the networks that we have supported and launched, there a certain anatomy of a powerful shared intent has come up. And part of the shared intent is to make sure that we are aligned, that there's alignment with the people that we are working with. That alignment helps keep us together and traverse the difficulties of working in systems. And the powerful goal gives an opportunity to be able to make sure that we are really galvanized together. We look at the opportunity to make sure we come together in ways that are going to sustain each other and show up as our whole selves and bring our best to the group. And then I want to just, because we have no on time, if we could skip ahead to the, one more. Oh, yeah. So in talking and working through different organizations that networks we supported, some things have emerged. So we use this anatomy of a mass goals as an opportunity to explain how you can think about what a powerful shared intent can be. And so that the components include it being meaningful, that is something meaningful, that is audacious in terms of what is prospect of what it's going to do. It's specific to what we're addressing, and is time bound. And in our work and working in different collaboratives, these are some components, some common components of goals that have a powerful shared intent that allows the network to move and accomplish a lot together. I'm sorry. That makes sense. Anybody have questions about that before we move on?
I just want to add that from our perspective, when we really are talking about, goals that are requiring people to work across systems, across boundaries, across sectors, to be able to advance real change, that the goal should scare you a little bit. If if the goal isn't scary just a little bit, then it might not be big enough. Or you might be addressing a problem that maybe 1 or 2 organizations can work out on their own, and you might not need multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral collaboration in order to figure out. So this is a real goal that came from a network that we supported in Northern California, in Del Norte County, for those of you who are joining us from Humboldt. And the reason why they said 100% of 3rd graders is because when they were developing their goal, they knew exactly if they said 95% or 97%, which students in their community were going to be left behind. And that, for the people who were in the room who were talking about what it meant to try this audacious thing, was unacceptable for them, because they knew it was going to be the folks on the Upper Yurok Reservation, the young people who did not have easy transportation access or access to after school programs, things like that. And so that's why they chose 100%. A little bit of a scary goal, but they took it on.
And I think too, another thing I wanted to make sure to mention before we transition, in earlier we're talking about goals. When you work with a group and you think of it maybe like a policy or a law, something that happens in politics, you might have an idea that starts out very powerful, but then you want to appease some people along the way. So as you're appeasing people and making sure that they feel included and comfortable, sometimes that takes away from the goal. It may give you consensus in some sense, but you have to ask yourself, is that going to actually move the needle in your community or in your network in a way that's going to be profound? Or do you need to step back to what Melissa was saying in terms of how to be a little afraid, go to that profound edge and setting your goals so that it makes you pushes you and you feel some energy and some life around it. I think we should go to difference.
Okay, let's do it. So earlier you all talked about, wait a second, this open door policy thing, not sure about that. How do you like be exclusive to be inclusive? We believe that difference is really foundational to systemic collaboration, because the only way to understand a truly complex and challenging system is to have enough diversity of views, knowledge, and experiences in the group. And so for us, that means that we tend to think that the open door policy or an open door approach has a number of different inherent problems. So for us, we think about what happens when you issue sort of a general invitation to anyone who wants to join your collaboration, right? Or there's a notice in the paper, we're going to talk about healthcare, come to this community gathering, right? When we do something like that, and literally everyone is welcome, what happens is that the people who show up can fall on a continuum from anybody who's like truly committed to people who are just curious, or in some cases, maybe it's, you have people in the room who just are there because there's a free meal. And so people who respond to an open invitation to join your collaboration are not all there for the same reasons. They don't share the same powerful intent or commitment to a goal, like Isaac just talked about. And the group won't necessarily represent the system that you are wanting to change. So what in our experience, what we have found is that as the work progresses, people who just showed up initially will often find it just as easy to not show up when they don't feel like it, or when there's a conflict, or something else, when something else bumps up in their way. So we also are aware of, you could advance the slide, please, like the messages that can sometimes be sent or received with open invitations. So the first one here, you can show up if you want, but we don't really need you. That's, if I'm just reading about it in the paper, that could be a way that that invitation sounds to me. Sometimes there's an open invitation to come to something, and there's a whole bunch of things that are implied in that, based on maybe where the meeting might be held or who is convening the meeting, right? You're truly welcome to come, but if you feel comfortable in this space, if you look and talk like us, again, like I said before, it implies that you don't have to be really committed to join us in this work. And then we'll take whatever commitment we can get. So for us, when we're thinking about open door policies, we want to also keep in mind that open actually doesn't feel open to everyone. And often the people who don't feel like they belong at the table with traditional leaders or with people who have positional power in communities are the very people who can bring the most value and needed perspective to our understanding of the problem and the solution. So at Co-Creative, what we suggest instead is being really selective and highly intentional about who we invite into collaboration. And that includes being really clear with them about what's being expected and ensuring that each person is truly ready to collaborate and commit to the shared intent or that masked goal that has been developed. Because by being really selective and inviting each person explicitly, you're actually being more inclusive and you get the diversity of people and perspectives that we think you really need to powerfully advance the work. And there was something in the chat about the decision makers and getting those folks in the room. Yeah, so great. What I want to say is related to what's being shown. Perfect. Okay, so when we are first building a network or we're first launching a network, there is an idea that, okay, we need to get the most powerful people in our community on board with whatever it is that we want to do before we start out. And we actually believe that people with power are often overrated in terms of their potential contributions to real change. Because, and there was some conversation about this in the chat too, those people are often the ones who are most invested in the current system. And they have the most to lose if that system is fundamentally changed or altered in some significant way, right? So from our perspective, instead of seeking the traditionally powerful actors in your system, we work intentionally to seek out influencers and the people that we call change agents instead. And we all know who those people are in the community, right? It's like the woman who posts on Facebook about fill in the blank and then 100 people show up. But that person doesn't have any formal or positional power in the community, but they do have influence within their networks. So when you do seek to engage people in power, because I don't want to leave at all the impression that they're not important, we want to make sure that we're asking them to make the same commitments to the work as everybody else. So for example, if they can't show up regularly to network meetings, then we want them to empower another person from their organization to represent them instead, and make sure that the appointed person really wants this and that we really want them and sort of all of those things. So we focus, instead of getting the most powerful or the decision makers in the room, really on the whole system, which I know I mentioned at the top. And that's because we need to focus on getting full representation of the system that we're working to change in the room together. So for example, if we were working on a housing insecurity initiative or something like that, and we wanted to truly understand what was contributing to housing insecurity, we would want housing advocates in the room, and we would want business leaders in the room, and we would want service providers, and we would want agencies who are supporting folks who are experiencing homelessness, and we would want people who are currently experiencing homelessness or who have experienced homelessness in the past. And we want to make sure that we're engaging all of them authentically with equity and care, because there is much more power and insight in that diversity that I just described than any one person can bring to the work, no matter what their position is. And I think it was Talleyrand, one of you might correct me, who said that there is no body that knows more than anybody, and that is everybody. So that is what we encourage and support, and that's part of our methodology when we're thinking about launching a multi-stakeholder network. Yeah, Julie, I see your hand.
Okay, thank you. So until recently, I worked for a federal agency, and what I've worked on primarily have to do with natural resources issues that often surround a federal decision that has to be made. And I completely see what you're saying about the value of the decision maker maybe being not as great as you might think, you know, that they don't necessarily bring the same level of commitment. They're invested in the system. I completely agree with all of that. I do wonder if it is a system where there is say a federal or state decision maker at the end of it, like what would be a good approach to kind of, we want them to be bought in so that they actually accept the solution that's developed. And I understand that you can't necessarily have that both ways, but I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about kind of how to approach it so that you know, hopefully at the end of it, the system comes up with a great solution and the decision maker isn't totally dead set against the solution. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. I have thoughts.
Seen it happen.
And,
Yeah.
you know, there's a little bit of nuance, you know, in California,
Mhm.
there's the Brown Act, and, you know, the government meetings and decision-making processes are really outside the scope of this webinar.
Of course,
I'd be happy to chat with you offline about some of those things, but I think that Maricela is going to drop something in chat, because we want to emphasize this point. We want to crowdsource from you all, and this is actually really great because we have people from Alaska to California to Belgium. We have educators on the line, nonprofit folks. Our Montana friends are here, and we have a lot of diversity on this webinar. Just open up the Meeting Pulse link, and there are no wrong answers again here. Just give me an idea of what it would take to ensure affordable housing for everyone. If you see something you like, you can be like, yeah, I like that. You could upvote it. Just share some ideas about what we might be able to do to ensure affordable housing for everyone.
Can you submit more than one?
You bet. Yeah, give me all your good ideas. Okay, keep typing, keep submitting. But I'm wondering, Sela, if you can start sharing. Okay, yeah. And Sela's going to get it up on the screen in a second, but I think you also can see on the link what's emerging. So there's an idea that we should agree on what safe, affordable housing is. Yeah. We need a vision. We could reform some zoning and land use policies, develop agreement that housing is a human right, provide housing. Yes. So I'm loving all these things: financial subsidies, investments in cooperatives and nonprofit housing. This is amazing. And you see how quickly, literally in just 2 minutes, we have responses that reflect diverse and sometimes even divergent approaches and dimensions of the work, but also how powerful it is to be able to see all of these ideas coming together in service of a common goal, and that is to ensure safe and affordable housing for everyone. So when we talk about getting the requisite diversity in the room, this is what we're talking about. Like, if we're all the same, we cannot come up with a solution set as creative and as powerful as what I'm seeing on my screen right now. Okay, Isaac, over to you.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, so we've talked a lot, and we'll give you a chance to talk with each other. We're going to go out into breakout rooms again, and in your breakout groups, you're going to share your name and one line about your work, so we know who we are again, to build those connections. And then, what's one idea or concept we've explored today that you can apply immediately to your context? And we'll give you like 10 minutes to do this. Please keep in mind sharing the mic time equally. And then when we come back, we're going to hear from you all and learn from the insights from the conversations, and before we get a chance to transition to our next part. So, Marcella, if you can already did it, so we can good to go.
Yeah, I do have rooms set up. I just want to know it might be a little shorter than 10 minutes because we want an opportunity to say thank you and close the session with you.
Okay, so we're going to have 5 minutes.
Closer to 5.
Closer to 5. So let's go.
I'll drop those prompts in the chat. And
Thank
then
you.
we'll see you back here shortly.
I'm hoping you all had some good conversation with one another and got some good ideas. If you could share those in the chat, that would be great. We got some couple more things we want to take care of, but if you put those responses into the chat, we'll get those out. We can keep them and circulate them out later. And I'm going to turn it over to Marcella.
Yeah, what's standing out for you from your conversations from the session today? We love seeing what those are, and I will be following up with email communications after today's session, including with the recording today, but feel free to also reach out to me directly, and I'm glad to share any questions or thoughts with the rest of the team also. Okay, I'm going to get my screen share, and while you are sharing your thoughts, I'll highlight a few things coming up with Co-Creative. So again, you can expect an email from me with a recording of today's session, a copy of the slide deck, all the wisdom you shared in chat and in Meeting Pulse, as well as the 10% discount code for our next 2 trainings. Want to flag or bring your attention so that you know that more resources are available for free. Oh, thank you, Melissa, for dropping that in on our website. So much of what we talked about today, not everything, but a lot is available on our website for free to you. And while we did cover a lot today, there is a lot more to share, practice, and learn about collaborative innovation. And we're going to be diving deeper into this approach in our upcoming offerings. In October, due to popular demand, we had a request to host another FCI, or Facilitating Collaborative Innovation course. And in this event happening in October, it really focuses on essential meeting planning, facilitation, and leadership practices that help diverse groups move from goal setting to achieve tangible outcomes together. It's super practical for both virtual and in-person collaborative work. So that's coming up right around the corner. And we also are offering, if you want to start the year off with Co-Creative, in January, we have Introduction to Collaborative Innovation, which is an engaging hands-on course to better understand the key elements of this approach and build your confidence and know-how to apply it to your collaborative processes. So we have those links in the chat, and we can drop again to our full course information and the code, and I will be sending around everything that we shared today in a follow-up email to all registrants. And finally, we'd love to keep in touch. If you aren't subscribed to our newsletter, we welcome and invite you to do that. And we can be found on LinkedIn and Blue Sky. We'd love to keep in touch. So as we round out to close, Just want to thank you all again so much for being here, and would invite everyone to, before you head off, unmute, maybe say a farewell or whatever is coming to you before you go off into the next part of your day. And we'll all be here together as we end. And thank you again so much.
Thank you, everybody. This was so fun.
Thank
Happy
you.
Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
All right.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.